Jordan, Jim and Hagen, thank you so much for joining me on the Tiny Sessions podcast.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
It's lovely to have you. For anyone who doesn't know about you guys and hasn't heard about your space or spaces that you have and are building, could you just tell us a little about yourselves?
Yeah, sure. We are Our Cornish Adventure on social media, and we started that when we moved from Essex to Cornwall nearly 3 years ago to build a house. So we're living in a static caravan on a plot of land as we build our house. And we also like to adventure around Cornwall and more recently beyond in our T4 camper van.
Amazing. Could you just describe your van space to us?
Yeah, sure. So it's a T4 camper van. It's a 1999 model.
98, I think.
98 model. You'll probably be able to describe it better than I.
Yeah. To anyone that's interested, it's the 1.9 very, very slow version of T4. No pop top. This is the tin top, 3/4 rock and roll bed in the back, row of cabinets, swivel seat up front. We don't have any fixed sink or cooker or anything. We just use a little camping stove or the Trangia, little cooking stove. We do have a boiler in the back, so we can have like a wild outdoor shower, and we also have a like a chemi-loo in one of the cupboards, so it is what's it called, self-sufficient space.
It's completely self-sufficient, but we have done it as like cheaply and as movable and flexible as like we can do.
It's a fairly standard design, do you know what I mean? The 3/4 rock and roll bed with the swivel seat is a fairly normal layout for this kind of van, but it works.
Yeah, you're quite limited.
It's normal because it works really well. Do you know what I mean? For it is a small space.
It's got all the needs that you need to make it comfortable, and that makes sense. And you guys updated a few things as well, didn't you, recently?
Yeah, so we bought it already converted. It already had the rock and roll bed and the basic cabinets, but it didn't have electricity, it didn't have solar, it didn't have the swivel seat at the front made a big difference. It didn't have a toilet, a fridge, all of those kind of things. So you can actually go away for a considerable amount of time. It didn't have.
Just a day van, wasn't it? It was just cabinets, just to get from A to B.
So we updated that and also put our little aesthetic touch on it as well, just so that we'd enjoy it a little bit more and it'll be a little bit comfier.
A bit more us. Yeah, that makes sense. You always want that as well. If you're away somewhere, you always want something where you could just feel a bit more cozy and comfortable and a bit more at home as well, like a home from home.
Yeah, that's right.
That makes sense. That's so cool. So you guys have described that you've got a caravan as well and you're building a house. Have you got sort of a particular layout with your caravan? Is it working for you as that temporary measure?
Yeah, it's funny. We expected to be in the caravan for about 18 months, but we're already coming up for 3 years now. So it's really difficult when you're planning these things. Like, you don't really know what's going to happen. Obviously, we didn't know there was going to be a pandemic in the middle of our build. And
if anyone's ever watched Grand Designs, nothing ever finishes on the due date
on time.
But what we did know is that we wanted to relieve some of the financial pressures when you're building a house and save money on rent and live on site. That's what we knew. That was why we thought a static caravan would be a really good idea. Initially we looked at more mobile caravans, but actually our static caravan was 3-bedroom. It's 16 foot by 35 feet. So it's actually quite a big space compared to the mobile caravans, but it was the same price. So
no, it was way cheaper.
Oh, way cheaper. Yeah, it was. We got it for £1,000, and then the caravans were more.
Oh, I see.
So actually, we knew that we were going to live in there for a considerable amount of time, so we thought, we might as well be comfy. And also, we didn't know anybody in Cornwall, so to have family come and visit, to have new friends come and visit and host. We just thought it would be a lot easier for us to establish those relationships if we had somewhere to invite them to. And I'm really pleased we did, because we're years in now and we've got at least a year ahead of us in there as well. So
I couldn't imagine living in just a touring caravan. Like, it's a touring caravan or this kind of space like the van. Great if you're going away for like a week or two. I know people do it for as full-time living.
You guys, you needed something that was more.
We've got an office in there. It's used as a storage for all my tools. Like it's a garage. It is everything. So although it's what did you say, 12 by 35 feet or 16 by 35? Actually, if you take out a normal shed's worth of space for one room and a desk and stuff out of the other room for an office, then
it's still a small
like the actual living area is only 2 rooms. As you well know.
But it's like we can have family come and visit, and all of those kind of things have actually been really useful, even though if we were to do it again, we have said that actually we would have built a small space on our land to live in, because even though it's quite a considerable size, the layout is completely inappropriate for what we need it for. And there's so much better use of that space that we could have done if we'd done it ourselves. It would have been warmer, it would have been insulated, it would have been heated, so if we were to do it again, we probably would have used even a smaller footprint than that, but actually had it work better for us.
Had a better layout. That makes sense. Do you think that's because because it's taken longer? Do you think in hindsight at the start you didn't expect, obviously we didn't know we were going to have a pandemic, so do you think you had that caravan space in the mind that it wasn't going to take as long?
So we bought it from a friend that were also building their house, and they built their house in 10 months, so they never had a winter.
Right, I see.
If we had the budget to be able to do that, then it would have been no problem at all. It's winters in a static caravan that are really hard.
Especially down here, because it's damp and like you get the full front of the storms down here in Cornwall, whereas they were building a house up in Essex, do you know what I mean? And it's considerably drier.
Definitely.
And they had lots of outbuildings as well, so they didn't have to have the tools in the house, they didn't have to have the office in the house. It was just a really different situation. I'm still so pleased that we didn't have to rent. That financial relief has been massive, and if that was our option, I do think that we made the best choice. Definitely.
100%.
That's so cool. And with your house, although it is a bigger house, you're still doing your own self-build. Can you just describe to us that layout that you've created and where you are at like so far with the house build?
So it's a 4-bed detached house. We kind of designed it where the wall between the third and fourth, like basically the 2 smaller rooms, is not going to get put up unless we ever come to sell it. So we're going to have a 3-bed, basically an enormous 3-bed, because that's what works for us, because we don't have a use for 3 spare bedrooms. Do you know what I mean? Like, in hindsight, we have no need for a house this big. It was kind of the mentality. We came down here with a big house means you're doing well mentality, you know what I mean? And now we're 2 years into the project, we've lived in these tiny spaces, like things have changed, but it's too late to do anything about the house now. It's already well, so and in terms of how far it's built, it's the roof's on, windows are in, inside's all dry, beginning to insulate and plasterboard very shortly. The actual building materials we've used to build the house aren't very eco-friendly. However, its footprint once built is going to be incredibly small. As in, like, its carbon footprint is going to be very small. So we chose to use quite high-tech, modern. Well, do you want me to describe? Basically, when we first applied for the planning, we everything up in Essex, because I was a builder up in Essex before. Everything I'd always dealt with was gas combi boilers. So that's what I knew, and that's what I wanted in this one. We designed the house so that it didn't need, we put enough insulation in so that it didn't need any renewables, didn't need solar and things like that. So it is insulated and sealed up to the eyeballs. It's triple glazed. It's got, you know, super thick insulation, floor, walls, and
wow.
stupid amounts. And then as we've got further through the project, like government initiatives and things and the way everything's going with gas and oil and fossil fuels, and the price is coming down for the renewable things, we've ended up putting on a whole bank of solar panels. We'll be using air source heat pump. We've got a biodisc, so we're not on mains drainage. We've got a borehole, so we're not on mains water. All of the borehole and the biodisc and everything runs off the solar panels. So
I see. So it's all connected like a circuit.
It's all connected, and we only buy back, or when it's all connected up, when it's finished, we will only be buying back a bit of electricity at night. Through the day, when the sun's out, the house is pretty much self-sustaining, apart from internet. So although it's built out of blocks and it's got UPVC windows and things,
it looks like a standard house.
It looks like a normal house, but actually it should function as an almost, not quite, almost a passive house. It's super. It's pretty.
It has the potential to be more passive than it even like will be with us as well.
Yeah, so if we go down the routes of battery storage, then it could be an entirely off-grid house that looks like, you know, a standard family.
Looks like a generic.
House.
Yeah.
So the possibilities there. It's just another big investment in money, which we can't quite justify at the moment, because we've already spent a whole load extra on the air source heat pump and the solar panels and the other things we've added on.
We're leaving it open to be able to make that choice in the future.
Yeah, you've got that option then, haven't you?
Future-proof.
Yeah, exactly. And with the house as it is now, do you feel like that's the house that you want to stay in, or is it a house where you think, we've done this project, but I would like a smaller house? Or do you like how big this house is now that you've had an opportunity to build something, or nearly finish building something that's so big, but also live in something that's so tiny?
Yeah, I think that's a conversation that we're having all the time, and we come up with different answers all the time. I think we have another project in us. It's a really good job creation for Jim. It's a really lovely, flexible way of working. It's really fun to create spaces like that, and to kind of leave your legacy permanently on the land that you love is really, really amazing thing to do. And I encourage anyone that wants to do it. But also there is a housing crisis in Cornwall, with people having second homes, and lots of our friends have been kind of bought out of, like, they can't afford a house. So I kind of don't want to contribute to that problem either. But then there's also a really good financial opportunity to be able to rent it out. So basically we have conversations all the time, and I don't feel like we know yet. I would love to be able to keep this house. It's an incredible thing that Jim's done, building a house by himself. It's his first house. I'd love to find a way that we could keep it, but whether it's us living in it, I don't know. I'd love to, you know, once we want to settle down somewhere, I'd love to be able to settle back into this house. And it'd be our last house that we ever live in. But whether it's our next house, I'm not sure.
Oh, it's exciting. There's lots of unknowns, but it's all exciting.
We're
unknowns.
Open-minded about it, but we adore the house. It's a wonderful, wonderful house. It's beautiful.
Definitely. And you've put so much into it as well. I think it's hard not to appreciate it when you've put so much of yourselves into it and so much time into it. It's almost like a little child that you've created in a way, isn't it? That's amazing. So going back to the caravan and where you guys have been living in that caravan, in that smaller space, has living in a caravan taught you guys anything?
Yeah, I mean, we're paying £100 a month for storage of things that we don't remember what they are.
Oh, okay.
So we used to have a 3-bedroom house before, back in Essex, and obviously all of that stuff couldn't come into the caravan with us, so we picked out a few things, but lots of it is in storage that we're paying for, and it's amazing how little we miss that.
We miss a washing machine and the tumble dryer. That's what we miss.
It really is those functional things,
and the big fridge, things like that.
But we have a hell of a lot of stuff. We've got a double garage size storage space, so it'll be really single garage space of stuff, so it'll be really interesting when we go back there how we feel about the things, and what we decide to use and not use, maybe. I don't know.
It'd be interesting. Maybe it'd be interesting to take a photo of it, and then a photo of what you've decided to keep.
What actually gets kept.
And the pile of things that we don't.
But
we did cull a lot before we.
So we had a huge
sorted.
A huge cull. And these were the things that were special to us at the time. So it's really interesting to see. Actually, we've been able to live without them for years. There are lots of things we do miss, though. Jim's got lots of amazing tools and things that we can't wait to bring here.
Lovely. They're valuable, those tools. They're expensive. I know that they're very expensive, those tools. You never want to part with those tools.
Not giving them away. No, not giving that.
So for some people who may not follow you at the moment, I know that you guys have just not long got back from a trip in Ireland that you went off in your van to. Could you tell us a little bit about that trip?
So we realised when we were on the trip that it was the first time we'd been away, just us two, and obviously Hagen, but just us two since our honeymoon 7 years ago.
Wow.
And we didn't actually realise, but it was very much needed. We chose Ireland because of the surfing, really. That's why we moved to Cornwall in the first place. And we'd heard from our friends about how amazing the winter waves can be in Ireland, and we kind of wanted to see it for ourselves, which is what sparked the idea of going there.
Nice.
You
had a big surf trip.
Yes, it was amazing, absolutely amazing, and it's the first time we've done it in a long period of time in the van.
How long were you away for?
12 days.
12 days. Okay.
Oh
wow.
So before we'd only spent I think 2 nights in the van elsewhere. Because without a fridge and electricity and a toilet, it's really difficult to do any more than that. But no, we gave ourselves 6 weeks to prep the van. And before we got the ferry to Ireland.
That's so cool. How was it getting the ferry? Did you have to do a lot of extra things because you had your van, or was it quite straightforward?
Having the van was really straightforward. We had to do a couple of COVID type things for us, super simple. And then we brought Hagen along with us as well. So there was a few dog vet kind of things to sort there.
He was the most complicated bit, wasn't he?
He
getting his paperwork straight.
What did you have to do to get his paperwork all
So he needed an animal health check. An animal health certificate it's called. It proves that he has had a recent worming tablet, rabies vaccination, and that he's generally fit and well to go there and come back.
If we were still in the EU, it would have been incredibly simple because he's from Greece and he's got a European passport. So when you get the vaccinations done, you can have that stuff put straight into a passport. Because we've left the EU, our vets in the UK aren't allowed to do they're no longer allowed to write in a EU passport. So his passport's from Greece, even though he lives in the UK. So our vet can no longer write in his passport. So you have to get the shots done, but then you have to pay all this extra money to get this health certificate done. And then when we went to Ireland on the way back, we stopped at a vet's and said, can you please transfer all this information into his passport for us?
So no problem.
She did it, but we paid again to have someone transfer the writing because she is a European Union vet. She transferred the writing. So now next time, in theory, we don't need all that paperwork because he's got his...
For the next 3 years, we don't need to do that again.
Because that's how long the vaccination is
Yeah, like
valid.
Valid, like it's
I see.
So yeah,
I
he
see.
was the most complicated, but I'm really pleased we could bring him. It was really fun to do it with the 3 of us. And the van surprised us, actually. It functioned fine. I mean, 12 days is a long time, and we in our heads we were like, oh, every couple of days we'll go to a campsite and we'll go to a pub and we'll have a bit of comfort. We didn't do
cool.
it. It functioned completely perfectly. The electricity, the lowest it got to was 40% full. We were amazing
we were
weather.
lucky with the sun.
So the solar panels did their thing. They were amazing. It worked, didn't it? We just cooked on the trangia or the gas stove, and it worked really well. We didn't feel, oh my God, I felt desperate for a shower when we got back in. But
because our shower broke.
Yeah,
so
our shower
I
broke.
said we had a shower.
Oh no!
Something went wrong with the gas supply or the gas link into the boiler, and it wasn't firing up. So
did you get a chance to try it?
Yes,
you did.
Yeah, and it was great. If it
So it was worth having that shower. If someone was going away, it was worth having something like that.
I mean, it's in our heads it was going to work better than it was. I think when it's dark and cold and windy, the last thing you want to do is strip off outside and go have a shower.
I'd say it's a time of year thing.
Yeah.
If it's summer and it's light until 9 and it's dry and it's warm, then it'd be quite nice to have a shower outside and rinse the seawater off you. But when it's single figures, dark at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, you don't then want to set up a shower and
so I don't
get wet outside when you're already dry.
When the park comes to fix it, I think we'll use it more in the summer months, I think. But apart from that, which we didn't foresee that happening, everything else just worked really well, didn't it? And we didn't feel desperate for a campsite or a bit of comfort. We cooked all our own food here, and it was great.
3 humans and 2 humans and a dog, a big dog, pretty it's pretty snug in a 3/4 width bed. But,
he is a big dog. He's like
donk.
He's almost he's bigger than a Labrador. For anyone who's listening,
he's 5 foot long.
He's 5 foot.
So he's big. He's massive, and he was in the bed with us, which isn't ideal. But no, 12 days we did, and it was great. You were ready to come back, weren't you, after 12 days?
Were you?
I really could have carried on. I love it.
The surf had disappeared, and
you're ready just for a bit of home comforts, weren't you? A bit of sofa and
I also have work to do.
It was on your mind. You knew, oh no, I'm not getting those things done now. I better get back and get cracking. It's so cool. So you did some surf trips and you did some walks and things like that. Because I guess there wasn't surf every day.
Nearly. It was only the last maybe 3 days there wasn't.
3 days at the end there wasn't, but
if we'd have moved further down, then there was surf. So it was only because it was our last 3 days that we kind of didn't bother chasing it. But we could have found surf the whole time if we wanted to. Cool. Ireland's an incredible place
because it's so exposed to the Atlantic. Do you know what I mean? Like every swell in every direction will make its way to Ireland, whereas anything that's built up in the north of the Atlantic Sea doesn't reach its way to Cornwall because Ireland blocks it. Do you know what I mean? So it just seems to get consistent surf most of the time, especially at this time of year, because you're starting to get the winter storms and the winter swell come through.
It's
an incredible place.
And we found some incredible wild camp spots as well. Really quite easily. We stayed in the most beautiful places, and we just kept saying, I can't believe this is free. Like I can't believe, like we had endless beaches to ourselves, didn't we? Private beaches just for miles.
It's beautiful.
And I think over the 12 days, I think we had 3 days without a sea view, maybe not even. Like it was amazing.
And one of those was like a 40-mile-an-hour storm came in. We decided that up on the headland wasn't the best idea.
Best place to be.
Van, we'd kind of pulled all the curtains through and set the bed up, and we were sitting on the bed like doing this.
It felt like we were on the ferry
Yeah,
again.
it felt like the ferry, and I was like, no, I don't think this isn't for me. This one, let's go and find some shelter.
I don't think I'd sleep if I was staying in that spot.
No, that's what we thought as well.
We definitely settled into it though. The first night we arrived, we were doing lots of reading about rules, and we were really nervous about, you know, not upsetting locals and making sure that we were doing it right, making sure that we were being respectful. But we definitely got into it, didn't we? We definitely learned how to do it with the certain spaces that we felt most comfortable and kind of looked that way.
Yeah.
And it surprised us where we felt more comfortable. Actually, I thought we would feel more comfortable when we were secluded, and actually we felt more comfortable in car parks with kind of people on the periphery around. A bit of street lighting and which surprised me really, but that's kind of where we felt most safe. So we spent the last couple of nights in places like that.
That's really
it's just when we got a better sleep.
That's a trick. You just have to do what works for you, like you say, what makes you feel most comfortable.
Like one of those, especially around here, any spot with an incredible view, like I don't know, I just feel like I'm always expecting someone to come and ask you to move on. Do you know what I mean? Whereas because they do in Cornwall, you'll get moved on everywhere, whereas you know, a car park in the middle of a well, not in the middle, but like a car park on the outskirts of a little town or village, people are just going to think you've parked there and you're in your house over the road. Do you know what I mean? No one's going to question it.
And we figured, like, you don't need a good view outside when it's dark.
It's just somewhere to be able to sleep and
so
have a good sleep.
We'd park up somewhere beautiful, we'd have dinner, we'd wait until it goes dark, and then we'd drive somewhere that isn't as beautiful. A couple of minutes inland,
that's a good
sleep.
idea.
And then we were always up before sunrise anyway, weren't we? Because of the time of year, it wasn't getting light until 7:30, and we were up and on the move. And then
we'd go to somewhere
way
beautiful
before
again.
That.
So it's that's what I didn't realise, but that's definitely like what we got it used to doing nearer the end when we got kind of really into it. Worked out what worked for us.
That's it's a really helpful tip, because I think a lot of people on Instagram will see all these beautiful spots to stay at, and I think probably that's why everyone, when they are in places like Cornwall, they try and have that, especially if you're only away for like a couple of days or a long weekend. And I know some people can get really overwhelmed when they see Instagram and they take it for face value, and they take a feed for face value, and they think, I want that life because they're seeing all these beautiful pictures. And sometimes people can get overwhelmed, but sometimes people can see that they are the lovely bits of like a photo album. And some people want to have that life. Have you got any sort of tips that would help people to get started? If there's someone listening right now and they're like, I really want to be able to, for example, have a van and go off and have day trips, but they think, how can I do that if I've got a 9-to-5 job? Are there tips that you could say to maybe reassure them that you can do it?
We use our van not just for staying in, and I think that helps with the financial cost, justify the insurance costs and all of that. It's a very expensive little home to be in, just sit on the driveway for months at a time waiting to go away. So it's Jim's usual runaround. I sometimes drive this to school, we put the surfboards in the back, it's a work van, and I think that helps justify the cost of getting the initial van if it's what you usually, which is much easier for something this size.
That's it. That's why we don't have a long wheelbase Sprinter or something like that.
Which would be lovely.
I'd love one of those, but I don't want to pay one to insure one. They're a fortune. They're even more expensive to run on fuel. Do you know what I mean? You can't park them in as many places.
So even though it'd be amazing once we are using it for going away,
couple of weeks here and there, brilliant. But to justify it as a daily driver like this one is, then you kind of got to go for the smaller one.
And then also just adventure locally whilst you're building your confidence. So we've owned this van for maybe nearly 2 years now. We've only just done our big trip in it, but we've done lots of one-night stays around locally, just getting used to the layout, what we need, what we miss, us what it needs, how to make us feel more comfortable, where to stay, what we like really, so that when we did do the big trip, we had everything we needed.
Yeah. So even if it was, and I guess even if it was a weekend trip, or even if it was broken down to just a day trip, and someone just went away for a day trip,
slept on the driveway.
We slept
on the driveway for the, like, obviously it was the pandemic, so we couldn't go anywhere else. We got the van just before all of that. But we used to sleep in the driveway and just practice what it's like in the van. Is the bed big enough? You know, are we warm enough? Do we need lighting? Where are the curtains? Do they work? You know, until you feel more comfortable, because otherwise it's not fun.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what it's all about. It's making it fun. And I think that's a really good tip for people, because I think people can get overwhelmed when they see the beautiful pictures on Instagram and they're like, I really want to do that, but I have no idea if I could do that. So that's a really good tip of like practicing almost. And it's fun as well. It is. I've slept on the driveway.
It's really
great fun.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're on holiday. Like, even if you're on your driveway, like we did a lot in the pandemic, or even if you're just around the corner, you feel like you're on a holiday. You strip everything back. You know, you don't necessarily have Wi-Fi and all of the things that come with life. You're only 20 minutes down the road, but you feel like you're resting.
It's like an adult's version of building a pillow fort in the bedroom.
You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, it feels exciting, like you're camping, and it's a bit, it is really exciting.
Oh, I love that. For people who are listening to yourselves and checking out your social media and things like that, they might see that you're a really lovely young couple, and they're thinking, how do I fund this lifestyle? And it's a big one. It's one of those things that people always think, I want to do that, but how do I financially do it? And everyone does it in their own way. How have you done it?
The house or the van?
I think just our lifestyle.
Yeah, just your lifestyle in general.
It's something that it's our most common asked question. I think they see that we're really young and think, oh my God, like, how are you, building a massive house with a plot of land? How have you done it? And it comes with a lot of sacrifices. Well, initially we had owned a house before, and that selling that helped fund.
So we owned a house, or we bought a house, like scrimped and saved, bought a house. I was working for Jordan's dad at the time. Yeah, at the time, he helped us get the mortgage. So it was, family help getting it. And then we paid off. Well, I also took out a little loan from my dad to help us get the deposit. So we paid that off to dad whilst we were in the house. We spent a lot of money, did a big extension, renovated the house from the ground up. New kitchen, new bathroom, extensions, like it looked like a different house.
Because Jim could do that himself.
Because I could do it.
Yeah.
It was, we were only paying materials. It had cost 90 grand if you were going to pay a builder to do that kind of work.
It was about 40, didn't it?
Yeah, so it cost us a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but because of that, we made enough money, and we then sold the house. The house had gone up in value
by £100,000.
Yeah, we sold it for 100 grand more than we bought it for. That allowed us to, or when we sold that allowed us to buy this place and have a little bit left in the bank.
To start the build, or to get the caravan on, get the drainage and the services in, and start the build. It's basically as far as we got. And then we've been spending as we've earned, and we're also borrowing from family members, and we'll pay them back when we can get a mortgage. There is another way of doing it though. If you don't have the if you don't have the money or means or people to help you, there is something called a borrow to build mortgage. They give you money in increments throughout your build. Generally, once you reach certain markers.
4 increments normally. It's, to start at, then it's when you're out of the ground, and then it's at roof level, and then it's, the finishing, something like that. When it's watertight, and then final finishes.
Yeah, so that's totally doable. Obviously, if you can't build it yourself, we're in an amazing position that Jim has been able to do pretty much everything himself, minus plumbing and electric. But if you're not in that position, it does mean that you can borrow enough to do it.
To be able to do it.
It is doable. And then you have got to take massive sacrifices. I mean, we moved away from friends and family. We chose a smaller plot than necessarily would have ideally wanted, as a bit of a hoop to jump through to get something we wanted. We've been a caravan for 3 years. It's really moldy and cold often. You know, we haven't gone on holidays. We don't buy anything new. I mean, I treated myself about 6 months ago to a new bin, and that was like amazing. Like, we really don't have much, but we know that the long-term goal is to be mortgage free, and in order to get there we have to make sacrifices, and it has to be a little bit uncomfortable, but it is totally doable if it's worth that to you.
Definitely, it's doing if it's worth that much and it means enough to you, then there's ways around it. For us, like, the financial freedom is happiness for us. It's that flexibility. It's Jim being able to surf when he wants without that financial pressure. You know, it's me being able to go away in the van and take photos and not have to come back to a job I don't enjoy. You know, it's all of that kind of thing. That it's basically not living to retire, it's living now. It's basically what fuels us. Doing everything that you want to do now instead of waiting
enough to be able to do what we want to do now.
And enjoying and finding work that we enjoy, and that works for us rather than us working for the job, which is what we were
putting your happiness first instead now. And our dreams and our wishes, rather than thinking, oh, one day we'll do that. Like, at the moment we're saying, oh yeah, one day we'll go to Hawaii. Like, when we are, you know, when we're a bit more in a financial stable position, we can do that now rather than when we're 60, 70. It's not too far down the line.
Exactly.
Whereas before it would have been when we're 60 and retired, we will go to Hawaii.
And then we're working our whole life to enjoy 10% of it at the end, when we're like older and like less able to maybe do the things
that's if you make it that far.
And my dad died at 49, which is a huge reminder of mortality, and that you might not get there, and that kind of fueled all of this, really,
to enjoy life.
Started to do the whole thing, wasn't it? Was him? He was, you know, still 10 years away from retiring. He was nowhere near.
So you have to live now. It was that kickstart to just go, let's just do it and just enjoy
but that
it.
doesn't
You just don't know what's around the corner.
Some people here live for now and think, I'll get everything I want on credit cards and I'll like not worry about the future. That's not what we're saying. And I some people hear what we've just said and think that, and that's not what we're saying. We're still making very sensible choices within reason, for financial freedom, not like,
that, so you're racking up debt and you're
we're not living frivolously thinking, oh, that live for now. What we're doing is like, I don't know,
almost making stepping stone choices to do what you want earlier.
That's it. That's it.
No, that makes perfect sense. And you've said about that you, when you can, you buy secondhand if you do treat yourself or yourselves. And you said about the bin that you got new, but I know that you do like to do lots of secondhand things. And the last time you bought that bin was a long time ago. So you're really careful of what you do buy. And I know you, Jordan, I know that you love buying secondhand items. Why is it important to you guys to buy secondhand?
It started simply because it's cheaper. That was what fueled it. But then the more I learned about it, the more I learned there are so many other benefits to the sustainability of the earth, to the workers that made the items, to the material costs. You know, there are so many benefits to buying that way that I just get so much more joy. And the more I do it, the less willing I am to even enter the shops that
Yeah.
However, I mean, I would be very silly not to mention the fact that we are very lucky in that we have a big following on social media and that we do get gifted things too.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's very easy for us to say, oh, I only buy secondhand when we're gifted, quite a lot of new things.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here next to our Jackery like, oh yeah, I only buy secondhand,
Yeah.
We are very lucky and we're very fortunate. But when we do make those choices, we are trying to make sensible choices. If it's new, then it wants to be something that lasts.
Or something's needed.
Don't throw away. And if it's secondhand, then we treat it like a treasure. And
generally, if we buy new, we buy an expensive, high quality version of whatever we're buying, so that you buy it once and
That makes sense. And is that being fed into the house? So once the house is built, and obviously you've got quite a big house to be able to fill with furnishings and things like that, are you, for example, buying the items that you need to, but that will last, or are you doing upcycling, or
like the actual construction materials? It's all been new. As in the timber I've used, the blocks, the doors, the windows, the slate, it's all new. But when it gets down to finishes,
it will be
whatever we can
handmade. We've already got our sofas, so they are secondhand. We bought them, one from Facebook Marketplace, one from eBay.
Amazing.
But we are completely open to making our own things. I mean, it means it's unique as well, doesn't it? It means it's exactly what we want. It means it fits the space. I love Facebook Marketplace and eBay. I get really excited if I can get something secondhand. They're often better made as well. And for our kitchen, like, we're in works of like, do we make it? Do we have it bespoke built? Like, but I would be very surprised if it was an off-the-shelf kitchen. So it's kind of making decisions like that, really.
And if you're buying, for example, the sofa secondhand, and you did have something that was bespoke built, it's that going back to that thing where you said you'll buy something, if you get something new and it lasts and you do it once, you've then got the money to put into, for example, the kitchen, and you're doing it once and you're letting it last a long time.
I mean, the fact is, we have no budget for the house, and that doesn't mean a limitless budget. We literally have no budget. So we, like I said about our storage container earlier, we will be using whatever is in there until it doesn't work, or until it breaks, and then we'll get something out. When we got our old house, everything was free that we got from Free Cycle or from friends, apart from the fridge. The fridge was the only thing we bought, and we'll use the fridge. We've designed the kitchen in this house to be able to fit that fridge. So
I see.
And we've designed the lounge in order to fit the sofa that we already own, and the dining space to already fit the dining table that we've already owned. And then
and we think, actually, like, so the sofas we've got will go in there. We've kind of got like a living space and then a little lounge off to the side. The lounge is almost identical width, like we're talking a few millimeters different, maybe 10 centimeter difference to the caravan. The caravan already has this big U-shape comfy sofa in it, so we will probably reupholster the whole
fantastic
sofa
idea,
and put it in the lounge,
and that fills the whole, like, it's comfy. You've slept on it, you know.
I have slept on it. It is super comfy,
and it avoids putting that sofa into landfill.
So
all of those kind of things, we're trying to be really creative. We love thinking outside of the box. We love making things. We love projects, and that excites me so much more than going into John Lewis and just pointing at things and then it's ours. And that's not even like, there's financial benefits, but actually I end up loving the item so much more when there's a story behind it. And I'm so much less devastated when it gets like wine spilled on it, or like life life happens around it, because I haven't spent £4,000 on the sofa. I've made it, or I've found it, or
cost
whatever.
you a couple of £100 in new material and a bit of timber to prop up the bits that were attached to walls. And
it's not everybody's taste. Some people, some of our friends and family come round and are just like, oh my god,
what are you doing?
This looks like a tip. It's like an antique shop, but we love it. It makes me feel really creative. I love those kind of projects.
Oh, I love that. And again, it's just another way of making things work as well. But you're doing it because you like it, and that's what's most important. With having time in the van and being in a caravan, have you got tips for living in a small space as a couple for people?
Yeah. You have to communicate really well. It's really hard, even in the caravan, to have separate space. We have literally got 2 bedrooms and only 2 rooms, and only one of them's warm. So we are always in the same room together. And it is just about finding ways to have your own space within that space. That comes with sometimes layout, or just what you do, and kind of tolerating each other's spaces. Jim's much more tidy than I am. I'm quite messy, and it's about like meeting in the middle sometimes with those things. And so Jim might be, I don't know, playing one of his games on the computer whilst I'm watching TV, but one of us will be having headphones, and it's about negotiating that and being fair and keeping that conversation going, because it's really it's small, it's a small space.
So it's basically just down to communicating.
I think with anything with relationships it is, isn't it?
Yeah. It's something that can be applied whether it's a small space or not, but it certainly seems like it's something that works to be able to manage a smaller space. But it
is hard. It is hard. Jim gets very frustrated with like cooking in the caravan, or like putting things away in the caravan because it's such a small space for him, whereas I'm really small, so it's much easier for me to do that.
What annoys me about that space is it was designed as a 1 week or 2 week holiday space. It's not designed for permanent living, and because of that it irritates me like you wouldn't believe.
Doesn't work.
I guess works. Because you're a builder as well, you can vision how you would have that layout differently.
I could do it 10 times better if I built that space myself, which is why we said if we were to do it again, we'd just build a space that size or smaller would work if it was designed well. It really comes down to clever design and thinking outside the box and making the most of everything. Like that is what tiny space or small space living is all about, isn't it?
Yes,
definitely.
Clever uses for spaces, and
make doorways big enough to walk through, because that caravan has like my shoulders. I'm not that big. My shoulders don't fit through a doorway straight on. So I'm walking around like a crab all the time, trying to shuffle between rooms.
He's not built for small spaces.
That does I'm 6 foot, not even big. Do you know what I mean? But not well designed. It's terribly designed. So that would.
I love it. It sounds like a Hobbit house now.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Everything's circular.
It is about just tolerating it and just knowing that it's not forever. I think it's just
for that one
kind of gets us through.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's a really good tip about communicating, and that sort of follows on to my next question, which is in terms of giving people tips and things, and obviously life happens and life gets in the way and we have ups and downs and all sorts of things that happen. Has mental health ever got in the way or not necessarily in the way, but ever come up in your lives for yourselves? And are there tips? Has it still been that thing of just communicating to each other?
Yeah, so obviously building a house, I mean, if anyone's watched Grand Designs, they know how stressful it can be on a relationship, and just as individuals. There's financial pressure, time pressure, all of those things. So yeah, absolutely. I think for us, we seem to even subconsciously just take it in turns. If one of us is stressed but the other one is more stressed, the first kind of puts their problems aside and supports the other, and we take it in turns like that. It kind of happens subconsciously. Throughout our whole time together. That's just kind of how we function, is like one supporting whilst one's like got more on, and then the other way around. Sometimes that changes daily, sometimes like it might be a month, and just kind of like being flexible in that way. But also I mean, we've both really suffered with mental health in the past, and for me it helped getting a counsellor, getting a professional on board, because even though your partner supports you as best they can, they're not a professional. So I'd always say, if you're,
and they're also not impartial.
No, and they can help, they can support you so far emotionally, but they're often quite involved in the stuff as well. It's always not fair. I would always get an impartial, good professional involved. If you're worried about anything, I would suggest that.
Was it hard finding someone who was a professional to talk to? Sometimes, depending on where people live, they find it hard, or they don't know where to look. And
I mean, I've heard there's lots of good people online now, so that would always be a good option. But no, mine was linked to bereavement, so I went through the hospice that my dad was linked to, and it was actually free. So there are lots of things around, but I know lots of my friends have had really amazing support online.
That's good.
So there's always somebody that's for you out there. Definitely. If you need it.
Definitely. That's really good. And like you say, it's again, it comes back to that communicating, whether it's to yourselves as a couple, or like you say, reaching out to someone who's professional, and carry on that conversation together as well, isn't it? So it's really, really helpful. Thank you for sharing that. You guys have been on your trip to Ireland, and you guys loved it. I've seen your photos, they're beautiful photos. Have you got any future trips planned, or places that you'd like to go on now that you've done Ireland?
For Jim, it was amazing that he loves Cornwall. I'd love to see more of Cornwall. We've been here nearly 3 years now, and we've seen actually surprisingly very little of it. So I'd love. I
generally don't leave the village. 4 minutes to the beach, or if it's really stormy, I go 10 minutes to a different beach, or 8 minutes.
Right, that's it. You could get a little circle, little compass.
Yeah, one little loop. And I get angry if I have to go, 30 minutes to the supermarket. I hate it.
It did take a little bit of convincing to bring him to Ireland, but he loved it in the end. Now it's surfing. So no, definitely seeing more of Cornwall, and then more of the UK. I'd love to see Scotland and more of Wales, and maybe like more of the national parks. I was really inspired by Wandering Home. They're on Instagram. Wandering Home's recent trip to all the national parks. So maybe
did they do
following
each
in
one?
there? They did every single one this summer, so maybe following their footsteps and having a little go at that ourselves would be really fun.
That would be great fun, and you can just do a little bit each time as well.
Exactly.
It's great. You can just fit it around everything. I love that. And future plans in general as well, in terms of your spaces. So you've got this house that you're building. I know that you're quite open with everything, but have you got any future plans if you're like, I'd love to do this, or I'd love a cabin, or I want to get rid of the caravan, or get rid of the van?
All the time. 1 week it'll be we want to go give everything up and sail around the world, and the next week we want to stay in this van and be foster carers again, and then the next month we're wanting to start another house project, and then the other month then we want a bigger van and we'll just go away. Like, we are so flexible and open to things that come up. I know that it'll be fun, and I know that it will involve lots of good adventure, but I have no idea what's in store.
Does that excite you? Is it is it quite exciting that it's like, I don't know what we're going to do?
Because the less secure and focused you are on your 5-year plan, then you're open to what might come around the corner. So if you have no plans, then you can just say yes and grab it, can't you?
Definitely. I love that ethos. That's really cool. So I always invite the community on Instagram to ask a question to yourselves, and the question that they would like to ask is based on your island trip that you guys have just had, and they wanted to know if you could just tell them a couple of core tips that you would give for van life in Ireland.
So I thought we would travel around a lot more than we did, but we actually just stayed in the Sligo area. And I'm really pleased we did, because we kind of made our little home for ourselves. We got to know the roads really well, and we got to know our favourite spots and our favourite sleeping spots, and it really started to feel really comfortable. So maybe like pick a spot and don't really have a plan and kind of follow your nose. And even if you just stay within a 20-minute radius like we did, like accept that's absolutely fine. And
so yeah, the best, or the bet for me, the two best surf spots we came across are not on Magic Seaweed. I didn't find anything about them online. They were just us nipping, we were just doing a little loop up the coast like
every
this
and
taking every road that went out to the sea. And then on one of them we found this line of cars along this headland and this incredible like A-frame reefy point break, A-frame reef, super clean wave, amazing. And that was, we stayed there for a couple of days, didn't we? Just slept on the headland with
amazing.
This incredible wave out the front. And then the other wave, we were driving through to a wave that I wanted to go and surf because I'd seen it on Magic Seaweed or on the internet. And just about 5 minutes before getting there, we were driving along a road that tracked along the coast, and we saw another line of surf fans and a couple of people walking through the field with their wetsuits and stuff on.
And we were like,
well, this is obviously a good spot. Yeah, so we pulled over, stopped, had a quick chat with someone, and ended up having the best surf. Literally the best surf of my life out there.
So I think
because we were in no rush to go anywhere in this very small section of coast. We got to see everything really well.
Don't be blinded by the tags on Instagram or the blog posts that you like must go to this best surf beach, because often it isn't. The best places aren't spoken about. That's why they're the best. Locals keep their secrets.
Same here. My two local, or the two best spots near me, aren't online. And they're never tagged on Instagram. When the photos go up, they're tagged, a few miles away somewhere else. If you know, you know, but it's a little hidden gem.
So that's a tip for anywhere, not even island. Look on the Google satellite and just go down every track onto the beach. It was about 7 minutes to drive between each one, and just see what you find. We found some incredible places to stay, to surf. So that's definitely the way to do it.
That's so cool. And is that how you found places to stay to sleep as well? Just by coming across them instead of using like apps and things.
So we did use Park for Night app when we needed something else, but I mean, I'd say it was about 50-50 of just coming across somewhere really cool and sleeping there.
Just did lots of like trawling through the satellite view on Google Maps. Like we'd look on Google Maps and look at what roads went out to the coast, and then go onto a satellite view version of that and see what was at the end of it. And then that was how we found some of the best ones.
Places to stay at during the day. So that in the light we kind of check out how close neighbours were, what the parking situation was like, and then we'd go back at night when it was dark.
So you sort of pre-planned it in a sense, that you were just sensible looking at it before, and then sometimes it was when you came across it. It's really cool. It's a really, really useful tip, because I think people do sort of see those blog posts and they think, and sometimes it's good to do a couple of those, but sometimes people do see them and think, they're the places
they become blinded, like that's the best.
They just go to those.
It isn't necessarily. I know for Cornwall, if we read Cornwall blog posts, we were like, what? That's not the best place.
Definitely.
Best place for surfing is like Poles F or Widmouth. Do you know what I mean? And I avoid them like the plague, because they're so busy and a boring wave.
So just don't be blinded by those posts, and kind of find your own adventure, find your own like little spots that for you.
Definitely. Amazing. So I always like to ask my guests a question at the end, which is a sustainable question, and it is, sustainability wise, what do you wish you or we had more of?
Sustainability wise, sustainability is an interesting one, because the word sustainability means to stay the same, and actually I think we should all be trying to improve, if anything. So something I'm really, really passionate about is paying workers fairly, and I think until we're doing that, sustainability is like second to that.
Yeah.
So personally, I think paying workers fairly and treating them fairly is the first step to having a world that can sustain itself.
Yeah.
Because without that, it doesn't work. For all the like organic and vegan things out there, that's incredible, but if we're not treating people fairly, then it kind of is a bit pointless, really.
Yeah, definitely. Have you got any, Jim?
So I'd say, like, in the building industry and in the building control, and planning. So you've got planning before you build a house. You've got planning permission, which is you apply to the local council to say, am I allowed to build a house here? Once they say yes, you can go to building control, which is a separate part of the council, and they say, and you say, can I build it like this? And that's when you detail how much insulation, what materials you're going to use. Now, when you're going through that, you have to meet a certain U value, which is how efficient the materials are at their job. So different strengths or different windows have different U values. Different insulation has different U values. Like I don't do the calculations. I forget which way it is. I think the smaller the number, or the closer to 1, or the closer to 0, the more efficient they are. So you want that number to be tiny. What that doesn't take into account is how those materials were made.
I see.
So it's only how well they do their job once they're in place. So yes, our house with we got Selcott and aerated block, a thermal block, internal skin, solid concrete block external with Celotex and plastic in between.
Yeah.
That does its job incredibly well.
Yeah.
However, the impact to the planet of creating those materials is horrible.
Yeah.
But that's not taken into consideration when it gets given its U value.
Right, I see.
Because basically we went to a house building show before we'd started doing this, and I spoke to a guy who worked for a company that does insulation made of compressed wood chippings and wood fibers and things, and it looked like a really cool product. And I was like, I'd already done my building regs at this time.
Yeah.
I was like, I've already done my building regs. Can I just swap this out for the Celotex? Like, can I use this in my lofts and my floors instead of that? And he was like, no. He said, if you've already got that with that rating with the Celotex, he said you need more of this stuff, so it has to be thicker. You need more of it to compete. However, it's an offshoot material. It's just wood chippings. Do you know what I mean? You can grow a tree. You can't grow cement and plastic. And do you know what I mean? They're one-time things, and their impact's disgusting. But that's not taken into consideration when giving these U values and the eco-ness of your build and the new builds. So that would be my if I could make one massive change by clicking my finger,
it's really
it would be to allow that stuff and give not subsidies but leniencies. If you're going to be using those materials, it should all be taken into consideration as a whole, not just as this is its final performance. That's very short-sighted.
It means our hands are tied with the kind of planning process and the materials we use.
Because of the area we've built a house, we're kind of in the middle of a few other buildings. So planning permission said it has to be in keeping. So we couldn't do a green roof and an oak timber frame with super eco glazing and stuff all around it. Do you know what I mean? We couldn't do that. That wasn't an option. Therefore, you're stuck with this traditional. Traditional. It's classed as traditional, but it's far more modern than a full timber building. That's a different rant that I won't go into.
So we've made its footprint as small as possible, like its carbon footprint as small as possible, but actually
Like,
it could be so much better.
Its running cost
as small as possible.
Carbon footprint is small,
but its actual material cost is massive.
Yeah, the carbon footprint of creating this structure is enormous.
Yeah, that's it. And it's because of what you've just said about the and people wouldn't know that either. People wouldn't know how that works. So it's really interesting. It's nice for people to know when even when they're looking at houses that might have already been built, and take into account, because sometimes you see a house and you think, oh, it's a new build, or some are advertised as sort of more sustainably built houses. But now that we know that actually that's how it works, we can go into it with a bit more knowledge now. No, I think both of those are good ones. What were you going to say, Jim? Sorry,
I remember. I was going to go off on another rant about other new builds, but I won't.
That's all right. Was that tips on new builds?
Just don't do it.
Oh, really? And just don't buy one. No, I understand that.
Don't buy a new build with me, unless, like, if you're going to buy one from a small developer, someone that's done a couple of houses as a bundle, probably going to be okay. I'd avoid anything built on a big estate like the Plague, which I shouldn't say because my brother-in-law works on an enormous one, but I have seen the quality. Basically, all the builders are in there to make their money and to go home. They don't care what it looks like. It's not their house. Whereas, you buy one of these and they don't even literal blood, sweat and tears goes into this to make it as nice as it is, and they can't justify spending the time to do things
3 years
properly. Do you know what I mean? I've seen the state of block work and brickwork on new build houses, and it's not straight and it's not level, and not all of them, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of good tradesmen that work, but
there's a lot of bad
on them, but I've seen and heard of bloody horror stories from them. So, but anyway, go and build your own house if you want a house. Build it yourself and employ a good local general builder to do it for you.
Everyone's going to be employing you now, Jim.
They
go, right,
not for a little
I'll
while.
Get my house done in 5 years' time. They might have finished theirs then. You'll be going, sorry.
10 years time.
You'll be like, sorry, we're in Hawaii now.
Sorry, I don't build houses anymore. I live on a boat.
Jim, Jordan, and we've got Hagen nestled in the background there. It has been lovely chatting to you guys. It's been so lovely chatting to you guys. For anyone who wants to follow you guys, you are Our Cornish Adventure on Instagram, but you've also got a few other things going on. So you've got Our Cornish Presets as well. And you've got Our Cornish _home, which is where you can follow the build as well of your house.
I do.
And your Tevi Toys, which is tevi.toys, I believe.
And you can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram under all of those names.
Perfect. It's been lovely chatting to you guys.
Thank you, Nicole. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Say bye, buddy. Say bye. No.
Thanks, guys. That was so good. It was really, really cool. We've managed to get loads in there.
Hopefully that's
we spoke about a lot.
It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Thank you for doing that. And it's worked out perfect doing it now as well, because you've got your digger coming tomorrow, and it worked really well for me doing it. So
that's good.
Thank you.
You're such a natural, Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you so much. People have said really lovely things. I've had a few people who haven't done podcasts before or are quite insecure, and they've been really nervous, and then at the end they're like, oh, that actually went really well. Thank you so much. They say you relaxed me. I think it's because I'm quite hi, so they instantly go, it's all right. I think people feel like they can be themselves.
And you're always ready for the next question. It's good.
There's no big pause or anything.
It's good.
You keep it moving really well.
Yay. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you so much. What have you guys got planned for today?
I'm going to do a few peg dolls, and then I'm going to go to that school meeting.
Nice. Oh,
So not great
that
fun,
done.
Nice.
Yeah,
And then
get
my
that
big
done
one
now.
will arrive at
Yeah.
lunchtime, I think so.
Lunchtime it arrives.
I think so, yeah. I got a few bits to move around before
Oh,
it
cool,
arrives.
because I thought it was
but-
coming
Oh,
Tuesday.
No.
Oh,
Coming this
that's
afternoon.
good.
Yeah,
perfect.
let's
Oh, well,
start-
there you go.
start digging.
Oh, that's cool. So you'll come back from your meeting. Oh,
Yeah,
look.
there'll be holes everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'll let you guys go so you can get going. But thank you so
Enjoy
much for
the rest of your
chatting.
day, Nicole.
Thank you. You too. Take care.